company called Damiensaber out of the People's Republic of China sent me this lightsaber. They didn't sponsor this or anything. They just asked me to do a video about one of their sabers. I happen to be a casual collector of higher quality Star Wars lightsabers. I have a small but growing collection. So I said, hey, why not? Send me one of your sabers. Their website has a decent variety of sabers, and naturally I went for one that is from the original trilogy, Luke's from Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, the weathered version. In this video, I just want to walk you through all of the features of this blade and then discuss my pros and cons. The shipping was surprisingly fast. I think I got it in about 10 days. Packaging was over the top. These sabers run from $200 to $400. So I think customers really want to see their pricey man toys wrapped up nice and tight. I was surprised to see two different pommel end caps, as well as several emitter ring options. The blade is a very durable plastic tube that you can bang really hard against other similarly constructed plastic tubes. I actually battle tested this blade against other toy lightsabers and found that it's solid. It's a 36-inch blade, pretty standard size for an adult. If you're not familiar with this class of lightsaber, they always have a machined alloy chassis, which gives them a heft that you can't get with plastic. And more often than not, you get lights and sounds. Like I mentioned, I've been sort of collecting these over the years, but I actually didn't know how good the technology has gotten with blades. I'm not sure how other companies are accomplishing light and sound with their blades these days, but this is how Damiensaber does it. There is a completely removable module powered by a rechargeable battery. To recharge, you would use a USB-C plug here. The unit has pogo pins on one end, which activate on the contact inside the saber once enough pressure has been applied. The end with the pins also has a series of very powerful LED lights that will illuminate the plastic tube blade. On the other end of the electronics subassembly is the speaker. This unit will also contain an accelerometer that detects motion and tilt and all that. So that will make the swoosh sound when you swing it around. It also contains a Bluetooth unit so that you can choose lights and sound fonts from a phone app. Let me turn this thing on directly so that you can see where the magic is. I've got to say, it's a pretty extraordinary little device. Now there are two end pommels to choose from. One will allow the sound to come out much louder, while the other one is more for display purposes. As you're probably already aware, filmmakers used two different lightsabers on hilts of the set of the original trilogy movies. The hero version, as they called them, was the one that they wore on their belts, and the stunt version was the one they used to swing around. This saber also has two roles to play, but it only has one main hilt, which is why you have the modular components. The first role that it plays is that of the dueling toy saber that you would swing around in your garage or with your friends or at a convention. For that role, you need the open air pommel end and the reinforcement on the emitter. Let me take off this display emitter end and show you how much reinforcement there is by default. When you put in the blade, it goes in about ½ an inch, if that, and then you tighten it with this one screw. I initially did a bunch of heavy testing with the saber without this reinforcement ring, and the blade was creaky and wobbly. I was initially very disappointed until I realized that once you pop this thing on, the blade is rock solid. But that brings up the second role that this saber plays, and that is of a display piece. For display, you'd want to use the closed pommel end, and you'd remove the blade reinforcement ring and pop in this blade plug to hide the LEDs. I was really impressed with the accelerometer. It's very sensitive and you get the satisfaction of movement. There is exactly one button on this saber, and it is both a blessing and a curse. The button has so many functions depending on how long you press it and in what direction you're holding the blade, as well as if you're moving the blade in one way or another. Frankly, I don't recommend trying to memorize or use these motion commands because one, there are too many of them, and two, they didn't always work, at least not for me. The alternative to this insane single button interface is the free companion app called Xeno. Once you connect the hilt via Bluetooth, you can cycle through 32 different colors and sound combinations, or just jump into any of them and change the color or sound font. There's also a setting for how the light glows, either evenly or in sputters or pulses. I'm going to go through each pre-config so you can get an idea of what's on offer here. It should go without saying that these are almost all inspired by different Star Wars movies, but only one color and one sound font really matches Luke's saber from Return of the Jedi. It's nice to have these options though.
New Horizon. Volume level 100%. Fallen Apprentice Magenta. The Princess. The Witcher. Truly Lost. Dark Ages.
All right, here are my thoughts on Damiensaber's weathered Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker lightsaber. Bluetooth connectivity. I had some problems getting the Bluetooth to connect to the app. Sometimes it worked no problem, and sometimes it took a couple minutes of messing around. The only workaround, if Bluetooth isn't working, is to decipher the one button plus movement control menu, and that has proved to be supremely frustrating. It kind of reminded me of the Power Glove, actually. Can damage wiring. If you unscrew a certain part of the hilt, you can do serious damage to the internal wiring. This is not a problem if you know where not to unscrew and you don't have little kids or teenagers messing around with your precious lightsaber. But if you do have curious hands touching this thing, you have to urge great care. Clip rattle. If you're doing any swinging around and you want to actually enjoy the sound effects, you have to figure out a way to clamp down that belt loop because it is constantly rattling against the metal hilt. If you have any tape or sticky tack, that will do the trick. Looks good enough for display. You're just never going to get anything screen accurate because there were half a dozen different sabers used in the movie in the first place. What you want out of a display saber is verisimilitude, the feeling of authenticity. And you get that with this blade. The metal looks great, the proportions are right. Now, if you were to consult with a Star Wars fan who has studied all of the prop hilts used in the movie, you might get some criticisms of this hilt, but I'm not that person. Light and sound options. I like having the dozens of light and sound options. They just make this a much more fun toy to play with. Motion detection. Likewise, the motion detection in the hilt is really great and enhances this saber as a toy or moving prop. Ultimately, it's a great saber. It's interesting that it doubles as both a durable toy that little kids can beat up, to some extent at least, as well as a pretty legit little display piece for adults. I don't think you can get the price much lower than this, actually, considering all the custom milled metal and the relatively sophisticated electronics. I guess the bottom line here is, if you're a Star Wars fan and you want to go a step beyond plastic toys and plastic display pieces, it's worth considering adding some metal to your collection. I've left links below. Thanks for watching. See ya.